all over their heads and their backs and their arms, and and you look at this, you say, wow, something. Normally you would not welcome this, but because of the fact that it has been shown to produce, relief from certain pains and things like this, people subject themselves to it. So they're doing this for the good which comes from it, not from the evil which is directly involved in that attaining that good. Similarly, people question, if Allah knew before He created Adam and Iblis that Iblis would refuse to bow to Adam, that Adam would eat from the tree because of Iblis's trickery, so why did He create Iblis? He could have created Adam, left Iblis out of the picture, and we just have things are in order, no problems, so why? The point is that when Allah created Iblis, the evil which came from Iblis, it produced a great good. If we look at Iblis and Adam, both of them disobeyed Allah. Adam disobeyed Allah and ate from the tree. Iblis disobeyed Allah and didn't bow in honor before Adam. Some people mistakenly understood or understand that Iblis's refusal to bow is what made him a kafir. But this is not true. This is not true. Because if in Iblis's act of disobedience is kufr, what do we say of Adam? Did he not disobey also? So you'd have to say Adam became a kafir also. No. Disobedience in and of itself does not cause a person to become a disbeliever. The Khawarij, the group which broke away from the early body of Islam, that was the position they took. If you made any act of disobedience, you became a disbeliever. Finish. This is a deviation. This is an aberration. This is not the correct Islamic understanding. Sin does not make a person a disbeliever. The point is that when Adam disobeyed Allah, and Allah had taught him words of repentance, he turned back to Allah in repentance. In the case of Iblis, when he disobeyed Allah, and Allah called him upon it, what did he do? Did he turn to Allah in repentance? No. He said, I am better than him. I'm better than Adam. You made me from fire and you made him from clay. This is where the disbelief came. Because what in fact he was saying was that it was not befitting for me to bow before Adam because I am superior to him. And the fact that you are telling me to bow before him indicates that you are wrong. Because he's saying, Allah, God, you are wrong in telling me to bow before this who that is inferior to me. It should be bowing before me. This is where now the disbelief comes into play. He's attributing to Allah error. This is a statement of disbelief. Anybody who says Allah made a mistake here, that's a statement of disbelief. This is where the disbelief came. So the point is though, Adam disobeyed Allah. Iblis disobeyed Allah, fell into disbelief. He came and he tricked Adam into disobeying Allah. And when he did so, Adam turned back to Allah in repentance. The turning back to Allah in repentance is one of the greatest acts of worship. Isn't it? Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said what? Kullu bani Adam khata'. All of Adam's descendants constantly commit errors. وَخَيْرُ الْخَطَّائِينَ التَّوَّابُونَ. And the best of those who constantly err are those who constantly turn back to Allah in repentance. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was also quoted in Sahih Muslim as saying, if you didn't commit sins and turn back to Allah in repentance, Allah would have removed you from the face of the earth brought another people who would commit sins and turn back to Allah in repentance, and He would forgive them. So the act of turning to Allah in repentance, this is a great act of worship. So much so that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, "At-ta'ibu min al-dhanbi kaman la dhanba lah." One who repents from sin is like one without sin. This is how great. Furthermore, when Adam turned to Allah in repentance, then Allah forgave him. This manifestation of Allah's attribute of forgiveness, this great mercy, this came about because of Adam's disobedience and turning back to Allah in repentance. So all of this great good, because of course, to receive Allah's forgiveness and His mercy and His blessings, this is a great benefit. So that great benefit, that great act of worship, this took place because of Iblis's trickery. So the creation of Iblis was not for the trick, but for the good which came from his trick. Is that clear? Right? So when we look at the concept of good and evil in the world, we recognize that everything that Allah creates ultimately is good. That the evil that we perceive in the world is not pure evil. If there is relative pure evil, it is that which comes from human beings and the jinn, where a human being intends evil and he or she tries to implement that evil. This we can call relatively pure evil. Allah's intent is good. The act that we may see or the incident we may see may appear to us to be evil, but there is good behind it. Sometimes the good becomes very evident to us. Something happens to us and we say, oh wow, why did that happen, so and so? And then a day later, a few days later, we say, oh, we can see the good. That was really for this positive good thing. And other times, it happens and we don't see the good. Time passes, we never see it. And this is what is in the lesson of Musa and Khidr. The lesson of Musa and Khidr in Surah Al-Kahf, this is what is in that story. Now some people mistakenly have taken from the story of Musa and Khidr that what we should learn from that is that we should follow our sheikhs, our peers, our spiritual guides and leaders without question. This is what they have an element that tries to promote this understanding. That's how we should be with our peer, our sheikh, right? And the example that they give commonly is that the murid or the follower should be with his sheikh like the dead body in the hands of those who are washing the body. The dead body, it has no will. The people washing the body turn it, they wash this side, they turn the other side, they wash it. That we should be with our sheikh like the dead body in the hands of those who are washing the body. But this is a mistaken understanding. Because neither is our sheikh or our peer or whatever equivalent to Khidr. Khidr, who was receiving revelation from Allah, nor are we equivalent to Prophet Musa, a prophet of Allah. So that analogy is totally irrelevant, is totally in error. That's the wrong analysis from it. The correct analysis is that behind calamities is good. The breaking of the boat, of course, when Khidr broke the boat started to sink. The owner of the boat would have said, why? Khidr, why did you do this? Just like Musa said, why did you do this? He would have felt very bad, his boat is broken. But then, the king came down the river and was snatching everybody's boat, didn't take his boat because it was damaged. He said, alhamdulillah. MashaAllah. He could see the end results right away, shortly thereafter. The other example of killing of the boy, right? Relative to the parents of that boy, their child was murdered. Khidr murdered the boy. That's what they could see. They could see their child was murdered. Of course, Khidr informed Musa and informed us that based on revelation from Allah, he knew that, and based on Allah's instructions, he knew that that boy was going to grow up. His parents were righteous, and that boy was going to grow up and be a fitna for the parents to such a degree that they would have themselves fallen into kufr. So to protect them from the evil of the boy, which wasn't as evident at the time, he was only 10 or 12 years old. I mean, what was to come, you couldn't see it. He was just an innocent child. Allah took his life. Now for the parents, of course, Allah gave them another child, a girl. And this girl was righteous. And of course they would have appreciated their daughter. But they would have remained in their hearts until they died a sadness for the loss of their son. Isn't it? Their murdered son. They would still feel that loss. But of course on the day of judgment, when Allah judges things and explains to them, then they will realize that that loss, that which they thought was a loss, was a gain. You see? And that's the difference between the two. That is, comes out of that story. The story of Musa and Khidr. That there are certain things which will happen in our lives. We may have difficulty in understanding what is the rhyme and the reason behind these things. We can't see any. So the tendency for us is to say, this is bad. And why Allah? Why did you do this? We start to question Allah. And this is, if you listen to the atheists, the leading atheists, people like Hawkins, right? Jay Hawkins, the leading physicist who is all-time atheist, written books on time and how the world has no beginning, etc. If you listen to him, in the midst of all his atheist claims and statements, you will hear this little voice crying out, saying, why am I like this? Because he is a quadriplegic, in a wheelchair, twisted, he can't even hardly speak. And this happened to him in his 20s. He was fine. He grew up a young person. Then he had this debilitating disease which reduced him to a cripple, being pushed around in a wheelchair. He has this massive brain, but physically he is in the worst of shape. So what you hear crying out from him is, God, why did you do this to me? If there is a God, there is no reason for this to have been done to me. This is unfair. There are so many other people in the world. He visited India, he saw all these, 1 billion Indians there. The vast majority of them are not contributing what he is contributing, as far as he sees it. But they're healthy. And here is he with all this knowledge, and he's benefiting humankind, and he's in this shape. Why? Why me? There can't possibly be a God. Because of his inability to deal with tragedy, calamity. He cannot understand the good behind it. So therefore he ends up denying God's existence. And this is common. If you listen to most of the people who disbelieve, who deny God's existence, usually you'll hear this in their statements. I had an aunt when I was 8 years old. She was such a nice aunt. She was so kind to us. Then she had a car accident and died. Why? What did she do to deserve that? You see, from that comes disbelief in God. So, the principle of rububiyyah, understanding the creation of everything which exists, this gives us the foundation for understanding tragedy in life. To be able to recognize that there is good behind it all, even though we may not be able to perceive it. So, out of this comes obviously trust in God, once one has that knowledge to